Start introductions. My name is Michelle Ramos. I'm the Prosperity Programs Director for the YWCA Metropolitan Phoenix. And today we're going to launch our America Saves Week, our second day of America Saves Week, which we're very excited about. Today is Save for Retirement. So very important information. We have two very experienced volunteers with us today to help share that information with you. So the YWCA, through our senior prosperity and our equity programs, the Metropolitan Phoenix YWCA is on a mission to eliminate racism, empower women, stand up for social justice, help families, and strengthen communities. And in 2022, we took on a deep dive into how race and gender directly relate to the 12 elements of a healthy community. So in February, we are shining a light on economic opportunity and how that is affected by different factors, including race and gender. So in hopes of closing gaps and making impact, we are participating in America Saves Week to help kind of provide that economic opportunity for women and people of all races. We want to guide and show everyone how to have that financial freedom and health, which is necessary for some peace of mind in your life. Finances can be very stressful. So today we have Catherine Scrivano and Denise McGuire with us to teach today. They have some wonderful information, very experienced ladies. So Catherine has worked in the financial services industry for over 30 years as an independent financial planner. She helps people reach their financial goals through education and support. Catherine is always finding innovative ways to help her clients learn and about their finances and how they can use this knowledge to get the future that they desire. She has been recognized in her field with many awards and commendations, including Advisor of the Year in 2009, but considers her greatest accomplishment to be in long-term relationships with families that she serves. And then we also have Denise today. Denise joins us she's a Wealth Steward Investment Officer. Denise is responsible for monitoring and rebalancing clients' portfolios and executing trades. She oversees the process of ensuring client portfolios remain on track. As a certified financial planner, Denise works directly with clients to help them feel secure in their financial future as they accomplish their goals. Denise partners with Ali Stay, formed the Wealth Stewards of Women, to serve independent as a newly single woman with their unique financial needs. Together, they help women successfully transition through life events such as retirement, divorce, and death of a loved one. Committed to empowering women on their financial journey, Denise also serves as a financial education facilitator for the YWCA. She also comes with a great variety of accolades and degrees from Arizona State University. So without further ado, I would like to give you Catherine and Denise, and they'll talk to you all about retirement today.
Well, thank you for that lovely intro. Hi, my name is Denise, and I'm here with Catherine, and it's wonderful to be with you all. We're both very excited today because saving for retirement is a topic that we're both passionate about, both in our jobs, as you heard, but also just in our personal life. I've saved for retirement ever since I had my first, full-time job. But I do remember the first time I really thought about what I wanted my retirement to look like and actually put some numbers to that. And sad to admit that wasn't that long ago. And doing so, even though what I wanted my retirement to look like and my savings to get to that, there was a big gap there. So that wasn't great, but I still felt wonderful about it because, having a plan really was what was motivating. Now I know what I need to do. So what about you, Catherine, in terms of planning for retirement?
I think that having been in the field that I'm in for such a long time, you would think that I would be telling you, oh yeah, I started years ago and was right on track from the very beginning. But, that old thing about the cobbler's children having no shoes, that was the case for me as well. I went through some of the life transitions that you talked about earlier and really kind of got a late start, but like you also feel empowered by having a strategy in place. And I see that relief on clients' faces, and when we're teaching these classes with the YWCA and other outlets, boy, the light bulb goes on, the shoulders go back, and women just hit the ground running and get it done. So I commend everybody who's attending these sessions this week. You're just building your toolkit to build your life.
Yeah, definitely. So why are we talking about this today? This slide here, basically, people can plan to spend about 20 years in retirement. I mean, that's a long time. Actually, I was thinking back, and I started working when I was 15 at an ice cream shop. And interestingly enough, Catherine and I both started working in ice cream shops before we were 16. But if I retire at 65 and I hope to live to 95, if you look at that bullet, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to live past 95. That's 30 years. And if I started working at 15 and I retire at 65, that's 50 years of working. And so it's more than half that time that I would want my money to last for me. So, and I saw a quote the other day I thought was interesting, that retirement is the one expense that you can't borrow for. You know, it's not like your home, or, I mean, you just have to come up with the money. So it's super important. The next bullet there is some of the things that we're going to talk about today. Many people don't know how much they need to save in order to get the retirement that they want. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about in this class about how saving for retirement really is up to you, that pensions are kind of a thing of the past for most of us, and Social Security. You know, it's just, it's not as much there as we would like. So really what we're kind of hoping for to talk to you today is starting to do some planning, because there's a lot of fear with running out of money and fear about how you're going to pay for your retirement. And then I think that can paralyze people, and then you don't do anything about it. And on the next slide, I just put this one in here because it's part of the America Saves Week stuff that they talked about. And I would encourage anybody to kind of go on their website and look at all their stuff, because there's some really great things to dig into there as well. But there are 6 steps, and we're going to talk about them, maybe not in exactly this order, but getting in your retirement ready mindset, defining what retirement will look like for you and how much you need to save. We'll do that pledge near the end. Also doing your homework in terms of how to start saving for retirement and what your various options are. And then I know one of the main focuses of this whole week is prioritizing making your contributions automatically. So we're going to touch on all that today. But kind of at the beginning, one of the things that we wanted to focus on, especially because this is part of the YWCA, is how important this topic is specifically for women. So Catherine's going to kind of delve into that for the next few minutes.
You know, women do have some special challenges, and it's important that we acknowledge that there's no, you know, pink money and blue money, but there are issues that women need to recognize that statistically are going to impact their retirement. The first is a longer life expectancy. Women tend to outlive their male counterparts, meaning the money has to last that much longer. Women are also more likely to live on their own. They're likely to face widowhood or perhaps divorce without remarriage. Statistically, again, it's the ladies who are living the single life at the end of their life. Women are the ones who will usually be the ones to take a break from their career for family caregiving. So if there is a couple and one is going to stay home and take care of kids, or perhaps taking care of parents or other family members, chances are very good it's going to be the woman who makes that decision. And we'll see in a moment some of the financial impact that has. And often women are earning less. So that results in having a lower retirement savings account, and their Social Security benefit is impacted negatively as well. So one of the things that I mentioned, women live longer than men. You know, if a woman is age 65, she can expect to live roughly another 20 years as compared with a man who might live less than 18 years. But also keep in mind that as we age, our health issues tend to become more expensive. So a woman is living longer and likely going to have more expenses as she ages. Women comprise about 70% of the population that is over age 85. And for people who have celebrated their 100th birthday, 80% are female. So the good news is, women, we take care of ourselves, we're consistent, and we live a long time. But we have to acknowledge that there's a financial component, a consequence to that.
Yeah, Catherine, I interject. I heard this quote last year that it just kind of blew my mind. It was that 80% of men die with a significant other with them, and 80% of women die alone.
Yeah,
So
that feels accurate. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mentioned earlier that women are more likely than men to take a career break for caregiving. And the consequence of that is that during that time, there is, of course, no income or perhaps reduced income, but the benefits that a lot of us associate with our jobs go away as well. The effect on our eventual Social Security benefit, which is based on our earnings, is pretty significant. We have the vulnerability in the event of divorce or a spouse's job loss or the death of a spouse. If we don't have that earnings history or current earnings, it's also sometimes very difficult to find a comparable job. When you say, okay, my kids are raised and I'm ready to go back into the workforce, that delay may make it more difficult for you to find current employment, or at least come back into the workforce at the compensation at which you had left. And right now, we all talk about how wonderful it is that we're working from home. Flexible schedules are a real important part of compensation negotiation. All of those are very positive things, but we have to acknowledge that it can affect salary and career advancement. Large employers may look more toward those who are not asking for the flexibility that some of us have come to rely on. So Denise can speak from personal experience about taking a break from her career.
Yeah, I stayed home for about 15 years raising my children. And a few of those years I worked at their school, and it was, 10 hours a week at minimum wage. So, and then when I just did decide to go back to work, it took me, I think, 5 years to get my salary back to what I was making, which would have been almost 20 years prior. So it was a huge, economic hit for me. And I don't know, not that I would go back and change it, but maybe I would have done a few things different, or at least, thought about the planning implications of that. So it's a toll.
And I think that's an important part of our message is we talk about women being the one likely to take the career break. That's certainly not a negative thing. It's the right choice for the right women. We're very much about women having choices and being able to implement what's right for them and for their families. But we feel like it's very often overlooked that there is a financial impact. And especially when we're talking about retirement planning, we look at these kinds of things as being a significant part of the puzzle and the strategy. And as Denise said, she wouldn't go back and do anything differently. Those were valuable times. And by the way, she started a library at her kids' school, which I'm so impressed with. But I think probably going back, if you had been more prepared for the financial impact, you might have made subsequent choices that were different regarding money. So just being aware that as female, we're the ones who are likely going to feel those dollars change as a result of life choices that we made. And then there's the big one. Women typically earn less than men. I think that in 2022, that the Equality Day, the day that a woman has to work and extra until she earns the same as a man, I think is coincidentally tax day this year, April 15th. I would like to think that in my lifetime, equal pay day would be every day, would be January 1, and we would all be compensated equally. But until that happens, we need to acknowledge that generally women earn about 82% of what men earn. And things that are based on our earnings, such as retirement benefits, pensions if they're available, Social Security, et cetera, are really impacted, as well as I mentioned earlier, the increased vulnerability to things like unexpected job loss or divorce, loss of a spouse or single parenthood. All of those things have a bigger impact because we're earning less. We had a message in the chat. Denise, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was from Jennifer, and she was talking about the fear of lack of money makes her scared to have children. And, I guess I can speak that I have 2 children that are just kind of moved out. They're in college now, and they're about to get off of my, I don't know what you call it, but my paying for them. And it is a huge economic commitment, financial commitment to have them. But I think with all of these topics, proper planning can hopefully make that work.
Yeah, I feel like there's a financial component to most life decisions that we make, and acknowledging that. On the other side is I see families with children when mom and dad might need some extra help, that avoids they don't have to pay for it because the kids will rally and help. So there's, sometimes having your kids can be an investment.
Yes, definitely. Very true. All right. So our next slide, we're going to talk about how much annual income will you actually need. So there are some rules of thumb that we could throw out there. They say 60 to 90% of your pre-retirement income. So whatever you make now, if you took 60 to 90% of that, that might be what you would need to per year to accomplish your retirement. And I guess what we would say with that is the younger that you're starting, and we hope people start as young as they possibly can, that is more something you could go on. But the closer you get to retirement, what we would really like is for people to think more about expenses that might change. What are you spending your money on now? Developing a nice budget of where your money goes, your expenses, and then think about what things might change when you go into retirement. Some things, maybe you will have paid off a house by then. That could be less. If you have significant costs associated with your job, some of those would go away. And other things are going to increase, like your healthcare costs. Some of those things might go up. Healthcare is, you do get, when you're retired, we, can all get Medicare, but there's costs associated with that too. And then think about what your retirement might look like. Do you envision staying in the house you're in now or where you're living? Do you want to downsize? Do you want to move somewhere? Would you like to have, a place that you could go visit? Where would family be? Do you want to travel? All of those things, maybe if you want to move to another state, I have a client that wants to move to New York, and it's going to cost a lot more to live there when he's retired than it does here. There's all kinds of things, just kind of for you to start thinking about what your retirement is going to look like, at least, as you're starting to plan for what we hope would be your dream retirement. So I remember when we were talking about this the other day, Catherine, you had this wonderful analogy where you were talking about the weekend. Maybe you could share that. It was a great way to think about it.
Well, as we encourage clients to and participants in these kinds of programs, we encourage you to track your spending. I'm sure many of you are doing that right now. And for so many of us, we find that the time that we really spend a lot of money is on the weekends. That's when we're shopping or the entertainment part of our lives, etc. And if we think of it that way, we might be a little concerned that retirement is just one big weekend. We don't have the distraction of work. And so a realistic retirement budget probably needs to include the fact that we're going to want to do things to fill our free time. And being prepared for that in advance may be a combination of things. One, saving more money. Second, identifying things that don't cost very much that will fill our time.
Yeah, there's a lot of studies about people that go into retirement and maybe they've made, some good financial choices and they're ready that way, but then they didn't put enough thought into how they would spend their time. And that can impact, when you have every day, all day, how are you going to spend that time? So our next slide is how long will your retirement last? So once you've put in the time and maybe you get a number, like I think in today's dollars, I'm going to need X amount every year to retire. Well, the next piece also is, okay, well, now how many years am I going to need that to last? And that is something, obviously none of us knows what's going to happen. We could be hit by a bus tomorrow, or, if you have a history of certain conditions in your family, maybe some of those hopefully will be cured. You don't know, but you kind of get an idea. And I guess we would caution as planners to err on the side of planning for longer than less, because that it's obviously a better scenario to die with some money left than to run out of money and have more time. So, but if you
I heard once that the perfect plan is when the check to the undertaker bounces.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. If we could all make that work. But I think, as Catherine talked about earlier, an average 65-year-old woman can expect to live at least another 20 years. And so if you're retiring at 65, that's, you're living to what, 85, 86. And then, depending on how old you are now, I know the average life expectancy, I think it took a hit here with COVID. It maybe went back down a little bit, but I imagine that'll turn back around and keep going. So you're looking maybe even 25 years. So that's kind of a long time to plan. And I was thinking about that too, trying to make whatever amount you've settled on last for 25 years. Can be hard to imagine. And I was just thinking about people too that are living paycheck to paycheck right now. If 2 weeks is a long time, how are you going to make 25 years work? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of trying to get ready for retirement.
In the chat, Jennifer has weighed in with a real common concern, and that's the cost of healthcare. Yes. Medical costs are higher in retirement for many people. As Denise mentioned, you do have access to Medicare, which is just such a great blessing, but there's limits to what Medicare will pay. And so most folks have some kind of a supplement in addition to Medicare. So there's out-of-pocket costs for the insurance. And then depending on the type of insurance that you have, you'll have some out-of-pocket expenses, deductibles, some prescriptions are not covered, et cetera. So she's saying, I hear stories of people who outlived their retirement savings. How do you know you're on track, or do you just hope for the best? My answer is you can't know anything. This is just one of those where we make our best effort, but that doesn't imply that you stick your head in the sand and say, well, I hope it works out. I'm not kidding. It is so empowering to be able to design your what if scenarios and have a strategy in place for all of them. What if you retire and live a very long time? What needs to happen between now and that time for that to be successful and one of independence and dignity? What if you live a shorter time in retirement? Where do you want your money and your legacy to be? These are all conversations that you can be having with yourself, with family members, with the prosperity program at the YWCA and other resources, and just getting the numbers down and getting the strategy in place. Man, it's like being a financial Wonder Woman. It's amazing.
I guess I would add to that too. I mean, we're going to go through it a little bit more as we go through this class, but in terms of, what we just talked about is trying to come up with your number. So let's just say, as an example, you came up with, I need 25,000 a year to successfully do what I want to do. And we'll talk in a minute about how much you can expect from Social Security, but just say you need that much money and you decide you're going to live for 20 years. So you'd multiply your 25,000 by your 20 years. So that's literally $500,000 that you would need. There's a lot of, if you just Google like retirement calculators, you can, once you sort of have that number, it will help you back out like, okay, I have 10 years to save. So what does that mean? I need to save every month. I mean, there's ways to start to get at some actual numbers. And I don't know what your thing too, in terms of medical costs too, Catherine, I know our planning software suggests people will spend $4,000 to $5,000 out of pocket costs on healthcare alone.
Yeah.
So just while they're on Medicare. So
Right.
That's another piece. And, we have people that would like to retire earlier than 65, but they can't until they can at least get it's just too expensive until you're on Medicare to pay for that yourself. So, but yeah, I would encourage, there's all kinds of, I know I was looking at the America Saves stuff, there's some on AARP, but if you're not like me and you're over 50, you probably can't have access to that, but there's any number of, I think if you have a retirement plan at work, they have calculators in there, but Google would come up with a ton for you. And you really can just kind of start playing. What have I saved so far? What do I need to save? And you could really start to put some numbers to that. And, like Catherine said, there's no miracle answer. It's just a constant something to work on.
I do have one comment, though, that's consistent with Jennifer's question. I say this all the time, but really the best investment you'll ever make is in your health. So if there are things that you can be doing right now, meditating, walking, a healthy diet, a number of things that really, don't have the financial sacrifice and discipline involved, but just an outlook about, making the investment today that will pay off as you get older, including, I often tell retirement clients who are watching the news during the day and calling because the world is going to end, I'll tell them, turn off the TV and go take a walk. That's my absolute best advice. Remember that those who are pushing this information to you are in the business of selling advertising, not in the business of taking care of you. Only you can do that. So you're going to save a lot of money in medical expenses if you take care of yourself before you get there.
Definitely. That is so true. So then this is helping you build your numbers. So our next slide, you have your amount you think you might need and how long you might think you need that. So now you have this number. So where's that going to come from? And we like to look here at a three-legged stool, although I would say that the third leg, one of the legs is not so great anymore. So that's troublesome, and how you get that to stand up with two legs, I don't know. But so the first one is Social Security, which we're going to go into in a minute about how much you might expect that to be, depending on how young you are. People worry that it'll go away. I think it will be hard pressed to go away, but in order for it to keep lasting, they have to probably keep increasing what we all pay into it and shrinking what we pull out of it. So I don't know that there's, good answers there. The second one is your employer pension. It used to be, that the people stayed working somewhere for a super long time and they got a pension, and those jobs are fewer and far between. So that for a lot of people is not a leg of the stool that they have. So what does that leave you? That leaves you with your own ability to save and your own investments. So that's kind of the piece that we're going to focus on. We're going to talk about Social Security and then ways to create that last stool. And maybe that last leg needs to just be a super big leg.
So Social Security has been around since the 1930s. And 94% of workers in the United States are covered by Social Security. And of the three-legged stool, this is probably the only one that is a major source of guaranteed income for most Americans. As Denise said, pensions are pretty much a thing of the past. They don't exist very often anymore. And the personal savings is something that we hope that all of you will manage to accumulate and be inspired to do for yourself and have that self-sufficiency. But Social Security is a fact for most people in retirement. Now, to be able to qualify for retirement benefits, you generally need 40 credits, and you get 1 credit per calendar quarter. So, pardon me, that ends up equaling 10 years of work. Now, in some cases, you can qualify for spousal benefit. If you've been married, you can get the greater of your record or the half of your spouse's benefit. This was put in place during a time when women often in their lifetime did not accumulate 40 credits and at least gave them access to that of their spouse. But knowing your Social Security anticipated benefit is a real big factor as you make your planning going forward. And that's something that if you are younger, you can actually start to manipulate a little bit. And I'll show you that in just a second. The next one tells you how the benefit is calculated based on the age at which you retire and your 35 highest earnings years. This is what Denise talked about a little bit earlier when she said she had taken a break from her career. So that 15 years that she did not have high earnings reduced her average. So a way in which folks can manipulate their Social Security benefits is sometimes around getting that 35 highest earning years up. We've seen people delay retirement just to bring their earnings up because, you know, if they were in their highest earnings years right before retirement, they might be able to bump their Social Security by working just a little bit longer. The age at which you can start claiming benefits makes a big difference. You can actually qualify to start taking money at age 62, but you're going to reduce your full retirement amount anywhere from 25 to 30%. And that's forever. It's not just until you reach full retirement age and then magically it goes up to the full amount. Exactly the opposite. You have permanently reduced your benefit if you start taking money before your full retirement age, which will be either age 66 or age 67. If you delay taking Social Security benefits until age 70, you'll make 32% more than you would have had you taken it full retirement age. Basically, it boils down to about 8% per year. There's no financial reason to delay benefits after age 70. There's no increase. So we kind of try and find that sweet spot between age 62 and age 70. The first thing that I reply when people say, at what age should I start taking Social Security? I say, what are you going to do with the money? Are you going to live on it? Are you going to save it? Are you going to pay off other debt? Think about your retirement lifestyle and the expenses, and then think about the money that is available to you through Social Security. But remembering when you start drawing, you have locked in that rate. So it's real important that you know what your intentions are. I also feel that it's very important that you anticipate what your Social Security benefit is going to be. And you can do that with a earnings and benefit estimate right from Social Security. you can go to ssa.gov and put some identifying information in, and you'll get an estimate of what your benefit will be. But in my mind, even more importantly, you can look at your earnings records and see what has been reported so far. And the time to say, wait a minute, there's incorrect information is not when you're getting ready to retire and file for your benefits. If some corrections need to be made, you want to know that as soon as possible and have plenty of time to make that. So again, go to ssa.gov. Think of Social Security Administration.gov and open your account, sign on to an account, and create the ability for you to be able to check on your own records and anticipated earnings.
Yeah, they just this year changed how those statements look, and they have a wonderful little chart that'll show you if I took it at 62, this is what I would get. If I took it at 66, if I took it at 70. And one thing I've heard is also in terms of your health. I know we've talked about you don't exactly know, but there are some people that do know already that they have some serious health issues that will affect their longevity. And if you don't think you're going to live through about your mid 80s, that's where the break-even point. If you think you're going to live well into your 80s, you will collect more money by waiting. If you think there's a real serious chance that that's not going to happen, then we'd advise you to start earlier. But you can't really kid yourself there. You know.
I think people underestimate their life expectancy. That's just in my personal experience.
I would agree.
My parents only lived to be blah, blah, blah. But your parents also smoked, didn't have a healthy diet, lifestyle issues that are not necessarily factored in.
Yeah, I agree.
So our next slide shows how much Social Security will replace of your earnings. This is by percentage. It may not be exactly meaningful, but I'd love for you to just kind of accept the concept as you think going forward. So if you were earning $23,000 a year now, and you filed for Social Security at your full retirement age, you would get about $12,000, which is roughly 53% of your current earnings. So we'd like you to internalize that and think, okay, if I had to live on 53% of what I'm living on right now, what lifestyle changes would have to be made? And again, this is just a concept kind of helping you picture retirement, what adjustments might need to be made if all you were doing was relying on Social Security. The percentage of income replacement goes way down if you are making more money. So somebody who's making $127,000 a year, they're going to find Social Security only replaces about a quarter of that. That would be a huge lifestyle adjustment if they were going to have to retire and say, okay, I'll live on a quarter of what I'm used to. Now, we acknowledge that someone who's making $127,000 a year, if they have this information, we strongly believe that they should be able to save to make up most of that gap themselves, but they need to have done the analysis early enough, not the day before they retire.
Yeah, for sure. So looking at that and thinking about it, now you have two pieces of your puzzle. You have the amount that you need, and then you have maybe an idea of what Social Security would get for you. If we could just go forward one more slide. Here we go. So the next would be identifying the gap. So you have your annual income that you need. Then what you would get from Social Security, or maybe a pension. Maybe you're one of the lucky few that will get some of that. And then you take what you have, what you want, subtract the Social Security or pension, and then you have your gap. So that is what you are trying to work on. So it's kind of the last leg of the stool there. So on our next slide, This is another one of those benchmark type things. And this is to get you, going back to that original one, that if you were going to try to get to, maybe 75% of your salary saved, where you might be at a particular age. And again, this is just thought-provoking for you to think of, but someone who is 30, if you were to have a steady savings rate, you might need half of your annual salary saved today. If you're 50, then that would be, at the bottom end, 3.5 times your salary saved today to get you there. So I guess our hope with showing you this is maybe it's a call to action, but I don't want it to be a call to panic, because life, I know I'm a good example too, is in different stages. And if you have children, I know the amount of money that I can put towards retirement now is significantly more than what I had been able to do while I had children at home. Sometimes you have to make some choices, and so we don't want this to be panic inducing. We want it to be thought provoking and I guess a call to action of where you might be, and kind of getting you on your way with that. And then I think the next slide, there we go.
Yeah, we Denise teed this up exactly as personal savings. I think we've emphasized that it really is an individual's responsibility. So what can you do? The obvious easy answer is save more. If you're not saving anything, start now. You don't have to do this all at one time. You don't have to come up with that magic number and say, okay, I'm going to stop enjoying my life today so that I can have sufficiency in retirement. But do commit to saving more than you are if you need to. If you are eligible for an employer-sponsored plan, please participate. You're saving taxes. You'll potentially get a match from the employer. Even if not, the tax savings alone makes a big difference. Denise is going to show you some examples of the tax qualified plans and what a benefit that is. If you don't have an employer sponsored plan, you can open an individual retirement account and start saving towards your retirement. This is money that you're making a deal with Uncle Sam that you are not going to take out until you reach retirement. So there's tax benefits involved in contributing to an IRA, and you can actually do both. You can participate in an employer plan and contribute to an IRA as well. This is your opportunity to become educated about your investment choices, both in the employer plan and in your IRA, or in a completely different account, which you have earmarked for long-term or retirement savings. There are so many choices, from a bank and credit union account where everything is guaranteed, to investing in stocks and bonds and a variety of other investment vehicles. And deciding what's appropriate for you is a matter of you becoming educated about your choices and revisiting them on a regular basis to make sure it's still the best strategy and makes the most sense. I liken just deciding to start saving as a matter of really owning your own life and your lifestyle in retirement. And we all know, as Jennifer was talking about earlier in the chat, we all know people who don't have dignity in retirement. And if you are young enough and can start comfortably and decide not to do it, then that lack of dignity was kind of self-inflicted, and that's even worse.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So the next slide, just kind of focusing in on that, the second bullet here is tax advantage savings vehicles. So by tax advantage, we're really talking about there's a couple ways that accounts that you could participate in that are considered retirement vehicles, they're going to help you tax-wise in a couple ways. So the first one is tax deferral. So whether you have a plan at work or you set up one on your own, you are allowed to contribute a certain amount of your income to a retirement account, and it doesn't count as income now. So you are not paying taxes on that money now. So it can help, help with your savings. It takes a little bit of the bite out of losing that money. And the other piece is that it can also help your money grow. So as an example, if you put your money in a savings account right now, you're really getting no interest right now. But back in the day when you would get a little interest, you have to pay, count that as income every year as you're going along. But in a retirement vehicle, as Catherine said, Uncle Sam is saying, you know what, we think this is so important. We're not going to collect anything on that now. It can just keep growing. So the power of compounding really starts to work as your money grows, because you're not having to pay any taxes on earnings that you make in these accounts as it's going along. So both those things help it grow. And then how it's supposed to work is once you're in retirement and you pull that money out, now all of that counts as income, and that's where you're going to be taxed. One of the things that we like for people to do, and Catherine mentioned this as well, is take full advantage of plans that you have at work. If you have some sort of 401k or 403b, depending on where you work, what kind of plan they have, to take advantage of that. It's easy. All employers will kind of do it for you. You say how much you want to put away, and even if you start with 1%, it's automatic and you begin to forget about it. And it's doing what we call pay yourself first. So that's very helpful. Two things with that I think sometimes people overlook. One is you want to contribute up to an employer match. If you are lucky enough to have an employer match, let's say they'll say, I'll match 3% of the first 3% of what you put in. That's free money towards your retirement. So definitely whatever you can do to meet that match, that is probably our number one priority. And then the other way that also you want to make sure in terms of being educated, I have seen people that come in and they were putting their money in a 401k, they were saving, but they didn't take the next step to go online and look at their account and actually invest that money. Some companies with 401ks will automatically put you in something that is a decent balanced investment for you, but not all will. Sometimes I've seen people that it's just been sitting in cash for years. So that would be the next step, I would say, of educating yourself. So those are work sponsored ones. Outside of work, you are also allowed to open an account, either a traditional IRA, and I'll get to Roths here in a second, but if you're under 50, you can save an additional $6,000 a year in a retirement account. Pretty much wherever you bank would have one. You can, nowadays online, Vanguard, Schwab, anything, you could go online and whoop, I've opened an IRA, and you could put money in. And those work the same way. You get to deduct that from your taxable income, and it gets to grow tax-free. So, and you can do both. There are some rules in terms of what you can deduct, how it works. It can get a little complicated, but you have all of those to you. And then you also have, once you turn 50, you have catch-up contributions. I said you could put into an IRA 6,000. Once you turn 50, that bumps up to 7,000. The limits in work 401ks, what's nice about those is you can put a lot more away in those. You can put up to, well, I think it's 20,500 a year now, and your catch-up is like 6,500. So you can start to really put away quite a bit. And then the other question that we get a lot nowadays too, is the difference between a traditional and a Roth. And there is both with work sponsored plans and ones that you would set up yourself. You have the option in most cases to do either traditional or Roth retirement savings. And the difference with those is Roth is another option that is very nice if it fits for you. As I mentioned, with a traditional retirement account, you take a tax deduction for that. So let's say you open a Roth and you put in 5,000, or not a Roth, a traditional IRA, and you put in $5,000. It's almost as if you didn't make that 5,000 this year. You're not counting that in your income this year. However, if you were to do a Roth, you use after-tax money for that. So you do not get the upfront deduction on that. However, in a Roth, moving forward, it's the same, you're earning money on it, and you don't pay taxes as you go along. The beauty of the Roth is that once you take it out in retirement, both what you put in and all the money you've earned comes back tax-free. So that can be nice if there's kind of this thought, people have always thought, well, when I retire, I'm not going to have as much money and I won't have to pay as much taxes. But, that's not always the case in the history of our country. The taxes sometimes are super high, sometimes they're super low. And I think what is nice is if you can have different buckets of money. You can have some money that you pull in your regular retirement account, and that's all considered income. Well, wouldn't it be nice also to have another bucket of money that you could pull a little of, and it's not free money because it's your money that you save, but it's kind of free money then. So that's a nice option too. And it really kind of depends on your situation, and you are eligible to contribute a little to both. So you have, there's a lot to get educated about in terms of retirement savings options for you. There's a lot out there, but those are kind of the basic options there. I don't know if you had any more you wanted to add on that, Catherine, with those.
I thought it was worth, something that you said is worth repeating, is the discipline that comes with payroll deduction that allows you to save. You don't have to make a decision every payday to save some money. If you set it up, it's going to happen automatically. And you would be surprised. Everyone says that they learn to live with it. They just accommodate their spending. If you're realistic, I mean, don't try and put 100% of your paycheck into your plan. But once you have that discipline and having it happen, then the next thing that I consider a good idea is, if you get raises, increase your contribution. Not your full raise. Doggone it, you deserve to enjoy the fruit of your labor and
Yes.
the results of having a raise. You should be rewarded, but you're not used to that money in your daily spending anyway. So put some of that towards your retirement plan. Again, it's kind of best of both worlds. The ability to contribute to a traditional Roth IRA is also something you can set up to happen systematically, so that you're not writing a check once a year for $5,000. You can have an equal amount coming out of your checking account every month and going into your IRA. So again, the ability to systematize and not have to make decisions every time to put money into your account. It's very easy to get distracted or hungry or some other reason to decide not to do it. But if it's automated, you're more likely to succeed.
Definitely. So next, I think Catherine's going to talk about, so what are your options if you're pretty close to retirement and you really just haven't quite saved enough? What can you do?
I mean, you for those who have delayed even thinking about this, someone who is planning to retire, let's say in the next 10 years, and this is the first time that they're talking about or thinking about what financial consequence that decision will have, they may very well find that they have a shortfall. And we wanted to just kind of talk about some of the obvious choices that you need to make. The first being spend less during retirement. So your ideal retirement lifestyle may have to be compromised so that you can cope with the fact that you didn't save earlier or sufficiently. You may delay retirement. You may decide, as I mentioned earlier, in the case of manipulating your Social Security benefit, you may decide that you'll work a little bit longer. Very common, we're finding, is people working during retirement. They may retire from their main career, but continue to work in another field where perhaps there's more fulfillment other outside of only the paycheck, something that interests them, fills their time, meets their social needs, but is not so much driven by the paycheck. I have a client who retired recently as he was had a career as a police officer and was done with the stress of being a police officer. I mean, that was a no-brainer for him to go. Financially, it was fine, but after several months in retirement, he decided to buy a truck. And he really wanted the truck, but did not want to deplete his savings or take on the consequences of having made this decision. So he found a part-time job that's just sufficient to pay off the truck in the time that he's allowed himself. And it's a job that's not particularly challenging to him physically or mentally, but it's letting him drive that new truck. And he's real happy about this. So he's very specific about working during retirement, meeting a specific goal. And then there's other ways that people find sources of income. They may rent a room out in their house, doing the Airbnb or VRBO kinds of things with other properties. They may sell things. There's the selling through Nextdoor and eBay and Facebook. I know several people who are doing those kinds of things. Those of you who are, unlike me, very crafty may find that turning your hobby into an income source is fulfilling, allows you to do what you like and create some income. Dog walking, house sitting, I've heard all kinds of things. There's a lot of potential ways to make some money that
Uber
allows
driving.
you to retire. Yeah, or Uber and Uber Eats. I know someone who just paid for a vacation based on Uber Eats. They did Uber Eats for a year, put every single nickel away, and then got to go on a great trip as a result. So being creative is probably the bottom line on dealing with a shortfall. And then our next slide talks about working during retirement. Pardon me. So we're defining retirement, frankly, as just leaving the career that you're in by choice, hopefully. But if you're able to continue working, you're certainly reducing the amount that you're taking from your personal savings. Another reason that people sometimes look for another job after retirement is access to health insurance, because you don't have to rely on Medicare or Medicare supplement if you have coverage available to you through your employer. And sometimes those can be more beefy benefits. You could, again, increase your Social Security benefit that we talked a little bit about earlier. You may even be able to delay claiming Social Security and watch that benefit go up by 8% each year. And then probably the one that I see most often is the non-financial benefits, the ability to continue socializing, having meaningful ways to spend your time, and getting out of your spouse or partner's way.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think we're getting close on time, and there's one more slide. Catherine and I didn't particularly like this slide in that well, it's busy and has a lot there, but I guess what I would sum up this slide by saying is that our number one takeaway from today is to just start as soon as you possibly can to start saving and to take advantage of the time value of money and compounding. This one just has the different people that have saved there, and there's like almost a $500,000 difference between someone that started at age 18 through 25 and then stopped saving versus someone that saved 40 years, the same amount of money, and they ended up with less money. So the sooner that you could save, the better. And that would be our one hope for you today, is that maybe this will inspire you to get started. And as Catherine said, it could start as small as you can make work, and then you just keep at it, and keep raising it and keep raising it. I think the only other thing, we had the America Saves Pledge. I don't know if any of you have seen that, But basically it's you say I and your name, Denise McGuire, pledge to save money, reduce debt, and build wealth over time. I will encourage my family and friends to do the same. So that is the America Saves Week pledge. So we just, both of us want to thank you for taking the time, and we hope this was somewhat helpful for all of you and inspires you to get started. I think the YWCA people have a couple more comments too about how you can get some further help.
Absolutely. Thank you, Denise and Catherine, both. We are so happy to have both of you ladies join us today. Your experience and knowledge is super vital for imparting this information to the community. So thank you. I wanted to say too, not only do we want to thank them, but we wanted to offer more assistance to you. We have wonderful volunteers that help us teach our classes, and we also offer free coaching. So even if you need just a one-off coaching session to help you get started, check out our website, ywcaaz.org/money. There is a form on there that you can fill out to be matched up with one of our coaches and have some time with them. It is a free service. You don't have to necessarily commit to, one session is fine. If you need help for 6 months, then we'll absolutely be there and meet with you once a week for that too. So no pressure. Our coaches are very easy to work with and very non-judgmental. It's a safe place to learn to manage your money. So please take advantage of that. Also check our website, the same one, ywcaaz.org/money for upcoming classes, because you can learn even more, and you might even get Denise or Catherine as one of your teachers, because they do help us out quite frequently. And then I would also encourage everyone to take the pledge. So if you text America Saves, all one word, capital letters, to 70878, that will commit you to that pledge, and America Saves Week will definitely nudge you along and try to keep you saving, and that's what we want to encourage. So, and reach out to us if you have any questions for me, myself, my staff, Catherine or Denise. Email me at michelle@ywcaaz.org or learn@ywcaaz.org. We also have some final poll questions, just closing everything out, because we need to hear from you. We want to know if you enjoyed today, what kind of topics are important to you. So please take the minute to complete those for us. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, any of our social media. Look at our website, subscribe to our newsletter, keep atop of what is going on in our organization. So many wonderful things, advocacy programs, ways for you to learn more about racial and social justice. So please stay connected. We would love to see you more, and join us for the rest of the week for America Saves Week. Tomorrow is Saving to Reduce Debt, and Friday is Saving as a Family. So many more speakers to come and wonderful volunteers to provide some great information for you. So thank you again, Denise and Catherine. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all those who stayed and watched the class.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.